Chapter 32. I'm really proud of you. 3 more steps like that and we will have made it. Shall we drink to it? Julie's forced enthusiasm strikes a responding chord inside me. No, I don't think so. I refuse the toast, an event which, as you can imagine, is not very common. Julie doesn't say a word. She just slowly lowers her drink, leans slightly forward, and looks directly into my eyes. It's quite apparent that she is waiting for some explanation. Under the pressure I start to talk slowly, trying to verbalize my rambling thoughts. Julie, I really don't think that we should toast it, at least not in the way you make it sound, like toasting an empty victory. Somehow I feel that you were right all along. What is this promotion if not just winning a point in the rat race? Is her only response. My wife can express herself very clearly without even opening her mouth. Which is definitely not the case for me. Here I am, rambling all over the place. Rat race. Empty victory. What on earth am I talking about? But still, why do I feel it's inappropriate to toast my promotion? The family paid too big a price for this promotion, I finally say. Alex, you're being too hard on yourself. This crisis was about to explode one way or the other. She continues, I gave it a lot of thought and let's face it, if you had given up, the feeling of failure would have spoiled every good part of our marriage. I think you should be proud of this promotion. You didn't step on anybody to get it, you won it. Fair and square. A chill goes down my back as I remember it. I was in deep trouble. My plant was under a real threat of being closed down. Over 600 people were about to join the already long unemployment lines. My career was 1 inch from being kissed by limbo, and on top of all that, the unbelievable hours I was putting in at work had pushed our marriage to the brink of going down the tube. In short, I was about to change from a bright, rising star into an ordinary bum. But I didn't give up. Against all odds I continued to fight. And I was not alone. Jonah introduced me to his common sense, and thus very controversial, approach to managing a company. It made a lot of sense, so my team enthusiastically backed me up. And it was fun, real fun. Let me tell you, the last few months were quite stormy. I think that we violated almost every rule of corporate America. But we made it. We turned the plant around. So much so that it saved the entire division. Now, Julie and I are sitting in this fancy restaurant celebrating. I'm going to head the division, which means relocation, a fact that probably contributes a lot to Julie's supportive mood. Raising my glass I say confidently, Julie, let's drink to my promotion. Not as a step toward the tip of the pyramid, but let's drink to what it really means, positive reassurance to our exciting, worthwhile journey. A broad smile is spreading over Julie's face and our glasses make a clear, gentle sound. We turn to our menus, in a good mood. It's your celebration as much as it is mine, I say generously. After a while, and in a more somber tone I continue. Actually, it's much more Jonah's achievement than mine. You know Alex, it's so typical of you, Julie says apparently disturbed. You worked so hard and now you want to give the credit to somebody else? Julie, I'm serious. Jonah is the one who gave me all the answers, I was just the instrument. As much as I would like to think otherwise, that's the plain, bare truth. No, it's far from the truth. I turn nervously in my chair, but Alex, stop this nonsense, Julie says in a firm voice. Artificial modesty doesn't suit you. She raises her hand to prevent me from answering and firmly Continues, nobody handed you solutions on a silver platter. Tell me, Mr. Rogo. How many nights did you sweat until you succeeded in finding the answers? Quite a few, I admit with a smile. You see. Julie tries to close the subject. No, I don't see, I laugh. I'm very well aware that Jonah didn't simply give me the answers. As a matter of fact, during those long nights, and days, considerable time was spent cursing him for just that. But, come on, Julie, the fact that he elected to present them in the form of very pointed questions doesn't change a thing. Rather than continuing, Julie calls the waiter and starts to order. She's right. This line of discussion will just ruin a pleasant evening. It's not until I'm busy with my delicious veal parmesan that my thoughts start to crystallize. What was the nature of the answers, the solutions, that Jonah caused us to develop? They all had one thing in common, they all made common sense, and at the same time, they flew directly in the face of everything I'd ever learned. Would we have had the courage to try to implement them if it weren't for the fact that we'd had to sweat to construct them? Most probably not. If it weren't for the conviction that we gained in the struggle, for the ownership that we developed in the process, I don't think we'd actually have had the guts to put our solutions into practice. Still deep in thought, I raise my eyes from the plate and examine Julie's face. It's as if she was waiting for me all this time. How come you didn't think of it yourselves? I hear her asking. To me your answers look like plain, common sense. Why couldn't you do it without Jonah's guiding questions? Good question, very good question. Frankly, I doubt I know the answer. Alex, don't tell me you haven't thought about it. Yes, I have, I admit. All of us, back in the plant, had the same question. The solutions look trivial, but the fact is that for years we've done the exact opposite. Moreover, the other plants still insist on sticking to the old, devastating ways. Probably Mark Twain was right saying that common sense is not common at all, or something similar. That's not an answer to my question. She doesn't let me off the hook. Just bear with me, I plead. I really don't know. I'm not sure that I even know the meaning of common sense. What do you think we mean when we refer to something as common sense? It's unfair to answer a question with a question. She refuses my apparent attempt to turn the table. Why not? I try again. She doesn't allow her lips to move. Okay, I give up. The best that I have come up with so far is to recognize that we refer to something as common sense only if it is in line with our own intuition. She nods her head in approval. Which only helps to intensify your question, I continue. It only means that when we recognize something as common sense, it must be that, at least intuitively, we knew it all along. Why is there so often the need for an external trigger to help us realize something that we already knew intuitively? That was my question. Yes, darling, I know. Probably these intuitive conclusions are masked by something else, something that's not common sense. What could that be? Probably common practice. Makes sense, she smiles and turns to finish her dinner. I must admit, I say after a while, that Jonah's way of leading to the answers through asking questions, his Socratic approach, is very effective at peeling away the layers, the thick layers, of common practice. I tried to explain the answers to others, who needed them as badly as we did, but got nowhere. As a matter of fact, if it hadn't been for Ethan Frost's appreciation of our improvements to the bottom line, my approach might have led to some very undesirable results. You know, I continue, it's amazing how deeply ingrained those things are that we've been told and practiced, but never spent the time to think about on our own. Don't give the answers, just ask the questions. I'll have to practice that. Julie doesn't look too enthused. What's the matter? I ask. Nothing, she says. One thing I can tell you. Improvising with this method is hazardous, believe me, I've tried. It's like throwing a sharpened boomerang. Then it dawns on me. Here's the answer. This is the technique that I should ask Jonah to teach me, how to persuade other people, how to peel away the layers of common practice, how to overcome the resistance to change. I tell Julie about my last telephone conversation with Jonah. That's very interesting, she says at last. You definitely need to learn how to manage your life better. But sweetheart, she laughs, be careful, remember what happened to Socrates. He was forced to drink poison. I don't intend to give Jonah any poison, I say, still very excited. Julie, let me tell you, whenever Jonah and I talked about my troubles at the plant, I always felt he anticipated my response. It actually bothered me for quite some time. Why? When did he have the time to learn so much? I'm not talking about theories. I'm talking about his intimate understanding of how the wheels are really turning in a plant. As far as I know, he never worked one day of his life in industry. He's a physicist. I can't believe that a scientist, sitting in his ivory tower, can know so much about the detailed realities of the shop floor. Something doesn't match. Alex, if that's the case, it seems that you should ask Jonah to teach you something more than just the Socratic method.